Добрый день, рад приветствовать вас.
Hello, I'm very happy to welcome you at the AIJ conference. My name is Kirill Tokarev, and today we're going to talk about how AI changes our lives and why we should not fear it. You know what AI, electricity, and cars have in common? When they appeared, people were afraid of them. When Thomas Edison invented the bulb, newspapers wrote that electricity was very harmful for health and could even make you mad. When the first cars appeared, they were called the devil's carriages, and people were afraid that the 30 kilometers per hour speed could kill a person. Now, we cannot imagine our lives without electricity and cars, and we have forgotten the fears. Now AI is here, and everything is repeating, and there are more fears even. Yesterday I spoke to a taxi driver, and he was afraid for self-driving cars, and then the designers are afraid of AI as well. Next, a nephew has loaded the photos somewhere, and they are afraid that they will be used for criminal activity. So people who are afraid of AI are actually using them every day while they may not know it. Movies recommendation, personal assistance, that's also AI, autocorrection, loans in 5 minutes or less, that's also AI. We're already living in the world of AI, and we do not notice when it works well. But we're afraid when we hear that AI could steal data, and then we become afraid, or it could take decisions instead of us. It's a myth. It's something that we think that is true without checking. The myths live in our heads and impacts the decisions. Today we will talk to experts from various areas, and without any PR, without any fairy tales, we'll understand whether AI is capable of removing you from your jobs, or whether it could open new opportunities, whether it tracks your every step, or whether the machine can replace a person where emotions and relations are important, or even when it's about love.
Ну что ж, мы начинаем, и начнем мы с рынка труда.
So going to start with the labor market, how AI is transforming it, which myths are here, and we will also discuss these myths. Andrey Komissarov will help us. Allow me to start this from reading Decisions with AI. You have such many roles, and you're expert in these role models and an expert in the university. I think you can say that AI can change the labor market. So how can it do? What should we get prepared for? Change our activities, maybe go into some other industries, or learn to use the AI? I absolutely agree. The artificial intelligence will change the labor market, will change it considerably. The question is how. For example, I'm a simultaneous interpreter as well, and I don't recommend anyone to start becoming the simultaneous interpreter because here, the number of interpreters will become less. The person cannot translate for a very long time without any pauses, while AI can do that. But there are a number of areas where AI will not be able to do anything. For example, if you are a good plumber, and AI cannot do anything there, or electricians, for example. If we talk about office staff, the AI will transform the profession and in such a way that it becomes an indispensable thing in marketing, in HR. Using the big language models, is a must. If we look at the labor market, I would say that we will see that AI is actually an indispensable element of digital literacy. So people who can work well with AI will replace those who do not want to work with it. So then name 2 or 3 or 4 professions who either radically change or radically change, or appear or emerge in 2025 or will emerge in 2026. First profession is prompt engineer. This profession appeared with the generative transforms revolution, who need prompts. We use text for that, so it's just text. Prompt engineering is on the rise. Prompt engineers are in demand everywhere. You need to learn to do that, and it's rather simple. A couple of years will pass, maybe 3 years. The number of prompt engineers will decrease because prompt engineering will become just an element of standard literacy. It will not be a profession. Another profession is what I do. It's AI architecture, a person who understands the product as a whole. Architect is a productologist, methodologist, not a technician, so they can get a product as a puzzle or a Lego set. So if we take an AI agent, most of all, if we take AI agents, they have a whole number of things, not just AI, but there are protocols of data transfer, specifics of knowledge of engineering, how this all built. And AI architects gather all this. And the third profession that was always in demand is DevOps. So when the AI emerged, it transformed into ML. So how to launch a big language model at your server. The majority of the Russian companies, in terms of cybersecurity, want to launch these models in their own closed environment so that no data is leaked. It's all right, but someone must support this silo, and ML specialists do that. So that appeared from scratch with AI. So in addition to AI, except for that, so ML ops will be in demand. A prompt engineering will become something that we study at schools. What if we go outside the IT? You mentioned PR, marketing. Maybe there's something very exotic that is changed. Yes, for example, if we talk about models business. In Milan, there was the rise of supermodels. In the Vogue magazine, for 3 months, there were women generated by AI on the first page. And so when they said that, and actually no one noticed that. And then they realized that it would be very hard for a real person to get there. And here, this MetaHuman Unreal Engine generates these girls. Actually, didn't have to go through all these difficulties to get there. It's a very big blow for the supermodel market, and also for the Hollywood as well. That's a problem. Next question here. Some people see that it's a helper, others see it as a competitor. What do you think? Is it a competitor or is it an ally? How do we transform this potential competitor into an ally? That's a good question, because maybe this doesn't have to do anything with AI, whether it's a competitor or not. It has to do with how we think. If we have very good level of system analytical, critical, and creative thinking, so we are used to thinking ourselves, then AI just shortens the time spent on routine tasks. So, for example, I'm training at executive MBA program. I prepared good slides, very nice people, and so I need to make a workbook for them. This workbook, 16 hours, for example, I would spend a week. And I will make it in 5 minutes, in 10 prompts. Then there's a second prompt for analyzing these workbooks. Then I can turn it into a workbook. So in 2 minutes, I did this workbook, and then look at that very shortly. So from 1 week to 5 minutes, that's an example. So if I make a task myself, I do it on my own. If we don't do this on our own, if you just are used to performing mundane tasks, then they could shift you from this territory. So that's not a problem of AI agents. That's a matter of us learning to do something new. This highlights actually the problem with modern education. Not always modern education actually teaches people to think analytically. And without that, we are helpless because AI can do routine tasks faster. It's critical thinking, which is in deficit right now. Then I must ask you, can you write a prompt that could create a certain scheme to teach itself critical thinking? Yes, that's actually the engine I'm working on right now. It's called the Guru project. It's a very complex AI agent with memory, which is aligned to a certain person, and then the development of this person is its goal. And development happens when we get a challenge, which is hard to do, but it's doable. And so when we overcome this, only then we develop. So how to form this, how to articulate that and this challenge, and to check how we what we do about it. That's the point. Actually, I want it very much, although right now, maybe I don't need it because I've worked for 40 years on my critical thinking. So what do we need to learn right now? Hard skills, or soft skills, or whatever. Someone are running for Python, other languages do something else. Any language maybe can be useful. Maybe you could learn some foreign language. So for those who are watching us, you should start with prompt engineering. You should be able to write prompts to put your thoughts into words. This actually works with LLM and AI, and as well, studies show that when we learn to write prompts, we can also think in a more structured way. So we treat AI in a way that it's a new genius who has learned something for today, but tomorrow they will forget that, and you should set the task every time. So writing the correct prompt is something that you should begin with. These are just words, but they should be done right. As far as I know, there are no programs that teach this in an efficient way, because there are various models, various approaches. There's no methodology for that. Do I get it right? No. There are actually a number of programs. With the higher school and the economy, we have a program, 16 academic hours, and it's a matter of practice. The specifics is that if you are given a manual and you learn something with this manual, it's not this way. You should practice it every time. To make a task for your prompt, then the person should check your prompt and then recheck it. It's called a construction site for a person's thinking. This methodology for anything, not just prompt writing, for everything else. So when you estimate the results achieved by a person, can you automate analysis of this result? Yes, we can do that. Actually, we see it very nicely in higher education, where when the text is the result, and now the written text may not be written even by the person, him or herself. So it's either the rate of responsibility of the person, its subjectivity, or the understanding that they have as part of this task. So the more complex understanding they have, then the better the result. This is something that we can measure in AI era. We spoke about the professions that will change, who will be deleted from the labor market. Getting back to a previous answer, who should start learning something new right now? We must say that some professions are going away because it's just the time. For example, there were some old professions who made wool products. Now they're not in demand. The same thing happens now. For example, the copywriters market is shrinking, the translators market is shrinking, and AI will go for psychologists, journalists, and lawyers as well. All those who work with text, because LLMs have actually a very big advantage in working with texts. And they can get knowledge from various databases. They have a higher speed. So the speed is not hard to tackle. At one of our strategic sessions, which I made for a big company, I asked the people visiting them the following question. How do you think, when will you be replaced by AI? When they will start changing managers, top-level managers. I think it will happen very soon, and it's happening in South Korea right now. Companies who have complex AI agents that are on the boards of directors, they're showing the productivity higher than the market. They will not be a unicorn, but they can be something that is bigger than the market, higher than the market average. So we can see that AI can replace a manager. And sometimes it's even easier than a specific specialist. I think in some Russian companies, because Russia is very fast in this area, there will be managers who will be in nature complex AI agents. Maybe they will not replace people completely, but there can be a hybrid system where AI agent will be an assistant and the decision maker will be a person. Why? Because the AI agent has zero responsibility. And there should be responsibility. It's not like an independent member of the board, but like an assistant of the member of the board. Well, you could call it independent board member for the hype. You could say that there's AI in our board, but the responsibility is the important thing. I'm talking about public service, and Russia is very advanced here. Many public servants are very understanding in this area, and responsibility is important. So here it will not replace them. It will be like a centaur, half man, half AI, which helps the human part analyze information. Who will be the upper part, the lower part, regardless? Do we need maybe some additional legislative regulation on the labor market? And whether we're ready for that? That's a good one. Legislative regulation is going from the industry to the legislators, and I think it's good and important. I've worked in many AI Alliance work groups. We made the ethics code, and we now finalized the ethics code for education. Ethics is an interhuman thing, but in terms of AI, it's very important what is allowed and what's not allowed, what's normal, what is not normal. It's, the habits of business environment. We need to regulate the rights. For example, who has the rights for my voice, my image? Can a deepfake be made of me and then used it? That's the question. But when we're talking about the development of AI, we see very negative experience, for example, of our European colleagues who made already their AI Act and brought it to zero. All the initiatives, the startups for AI are brought to zero because you need to have a good AI passport, and this makes it worse even. So what Russia is doing in state regulation of AI is actually right, because it advances the industry and not hinders it.
These are great insights. Now, maybe a recommendation, a piece of advice. Those who feel threatened of the permeation of AI in all spheres of human activity, including jobs. What do you need to do? Well, first of all, start with learning how to write prompts. You have a lot of models. GigaChat and from Sber can be launched in Telegram. Just learn how to use it. Start using prompts. Start with simple things. Send a postcard with a song and a picture to your mom on her birthday, and you'll see it's pretty simple, and you'll stop fearing it. And then just, start using it where you think that it might work. It might get some results. This is the path of the experiment. When you experiment, you have dopamine increasing, the thing that something worked out. So everything will be natural, will be organic. So without dopamine, we won't be able to do it, right? Andrey, thank you very much. Thank you.
Мы продолжаем и поговорим о контроле за искусственным
We're going to talk about control over AI and control with AI, and to debunk some of the myths or negative scenarios. It's going to be done by Alexander Krainov, from the head of AI of Yandex. You know, I don't want to start with the Matrix or the Terminator, but, you know, not mention cinema and movies is it's not possible, really. But, you know, humanity is usually expecting some worst-case scenarios because, you know, we're that anxious as human beings. The rise of AI, machines, or the revolution of the AI, maybe something else. What are the negative scenarios? Well, I don't really have that anxiousness because I think that the most realistic scenario is that it becomes a normal technology like computer, internet, and electricity, like the technologies we had before. Everyone is using them, and people stop fearing all these technologies. At the same time, I have to say, I appreciate the fact why AI is presented in this monstrous way, because this is an ideal antagonist. Because, you know, in literature, someone has to be an antagonist. I mean, we obviously want the humans to be kind to each other, you know. So, but if you talk about aliens, they're going to be living creatures as well. But the machine, this is a great antagonist for any sci-fi writer. You know, I try to find a movie or a book where the robots are totally positive, and it's very few of them. You have to write a prompt to find such a movie. Yeah, and even if we find that, but there will be bad robots and good robots. But the bad robots, that's a prerequisite. Okay, but talking about the scenarios, why these fears are so embedded in us, ingrained? Why we're so afraid of AI as a technology? It's lack of control, the fact that it's a kind of a black box in terms of the modes of its use and other things. What is the problem? There are many fears that are cultivated and added, and they're all based on the fact that AI is portrayed as this antagonist, as a living creature. And many people are building their brand, their personal brand, by kind of fighting with this dystopian future, as they paint it. But the fact is that we deem AI to be a competitor, and we have to say that humans are better, they're stronger, and, you know, recently, in terms of the human evolution, recently we've lost to the calculator for the mathematical tasks. Well, the calculator calculates better, whatever. But, you know, like text, music, and poems, and coding, sometimes AI is better than people. You know, playing better in chess and Go. I mean, people kind of accepted that the computer plays Go and chess better. The humans compete with each other, but, you know, in all the other fields, people will go to that, will accept the fact. But, I mean, we have to go through that worrying, anxious stage. But the base of this anxiousness and fears and concerns is that the AI in the society is understood as the kind of essence with its own aspirations and ambitions, and that learns something. We have to control it or not control it. But those who know how it works, we understand that it's a formula or a set of algorithms, set of formulas, and it resolves a specific task. So it can be used for a specific task. No, I mean, there's no self-learning from a human perspective. And it's not like you launch it and it kind of learns. There is a separate learning process, training process. It's not only the human-controlled process. You have to invest a lot of effort to make sure that it has some results. And I mean, the parameter brute force processes are there, yes. So, but it does not really in any way near the self-learning process that we as living creatures experience. Okay, so people who watch us, they think, okay, there will be a critical mass of these formulas that are going to be accumulated, and this is when the AI will go the next step further, and it will become the AGI, and that will start the revolution of the machines. It's not real. It's not real. It's not possible. It doesn't exist. It will not happen. I mean, but people say, okay, you don't understand now, but I mean, when it happens, you'll see. But I mean, based on the horizon that we see in terms of the AI development, it's not possible. But maybe at some point in time we will be at the point when we understand how it might happen. And this is when we have to maybe unplug the machine, so to speak. But for now, we don't see that it might happen. Maybe it will never happen. It's not that it might happen. No. It's when we reach a point when we understand it will happen in some point in the future. About the cleanness of the data, I mean, the relations between humans and ants, some language models started to regurgitate some racist and sexist or some other offensive languages that they used, and they were trained on the bad sets of data. What is the probability that we are training the AI, that we are raising the AI as a bad actor? Well, no, it's not real. Take any LLM and try to force it to give you some bad answer, some offensive answer, and that might happen. But let's try to find this phrase online. It will be much easier to do that, to find an offensive phrase online. That means that any LLM, whatever the vendor and whatever the training model is, are much more ethical than all the texts that humans face online. Let's make a thought experiment and replace AI with a book. Let's talk the same about the book. People were burning books in medieval times, and they were saying, "Oh, these books can have such a vicious information. Let's destroy them all." Yeah, there are really bad books and really good books, but it's like. Sometimes, yes, people say, okay, I found this terrible book, let's destroy all books. The same with AI. AI is trained based on all the text, or the majority of the texts that were created by people during the history of our civilization. And it's as ethical as the average that we have written and created. Then the developers focus in more and more, and they're invest in more and more successful efforts to make sure that it's more ethical than the average. But when you make attempts and you are committed to make sure that LLM will give you the bad answer, and it will give you the unethical answer, and then you will brandish it as a proof of saying that, yeah, it's bad, look at it. But, if you compare AI with any other sources, I would say that AI is maybe the most ethical source, given the huge volumes of data. Okay, so it's ethical, and developers are making it even more ethical. But what if a developer or a group of developers, they will have this God feeling, and they will think, okay, we will create the only proper, ideologically correct and politically correct AI, and we will start its ubiquitous implementation. Is it probable? It's very unrealistic. There's thousands of developers, not like one person who is doing everything. And it is everything is very much debated within the company, within the team, and the main goal is to make the AI that will be properly accepted by the society, because otherwise the investors will not give you the money. I mean, any scandalous event drops the evaluation of your company, so you won't be able to earn money that would be needed to invest in resources and energy to continue developing the technology. So you will will create a gap between yourself and the leaders. And so AI have to be used by the people, have to be usable by the people, at the same time approved by the regulator. And they have to make it very ethical, very thoughtful. And there's no goal of putting your own ideas about good and bad into AI and making it relay them. But you need to make sure that it's very ethical, because you don't want any problems. Now, the important thing here is that AI, what is AI? You made a model that generates text, or let's say voices this text, to millions of people. So it's like you go to the square, city square, and you answer to a million of people. I mean, obviously, you're going to be different. You're not going to answer the questions in the same fashion that you do in your kitchen with your talking with your friend. You know, that's the same. It's a public speaking, and you're very ethical. The regulator, maybe they have to now already enter the AI and regulate it, because there's a Russian and American and Chinese and European, national regulation policies. European one is a bit more strict, maybe very strict, but we want to make AI invest in our life, make it easier and better. But maybe we should delineate some of the responsibility, where the model is responsible for the results or the developers. I think the regulation should not be created for the sake of regulation, should resolve a problem. So there was a situation before the regulation, then the regulation was implemented and it became better. So we have rectified something. In case of AI, very often, unfortunately, there are some regulation initiatives for the sake of regulation, and they don't quite understand what they want to improve. Now, there is an example that they expect the problem to appear with deepfakes. It has not happened yet. Why it has not happened yet? Because if we have the calls from criminals, the scammers, that's a problem. But someone who called me with a fake voice, I haven't heard that. Okay, the percentage is small of scammers using this synthesized voice. So there is a proposition to let's ban deepfakes. I imagine criminals sitting there in their basement and making deepfakes, and then there's a law passed to ban deepfakes, and he's like, oh no, I'm not doing deepfakes anymore. So, people who are criminals, they're going to do it anyway, and the scammers, they really have nothing, no changes, while it will create limitations for everyone else. I mean, if there's a new service, there's a new product, there's a new change in our life, we have to work on it to understand how it works. Let's look at computers and the internet. Do we have a law on computers or on internet? No, maybe we don't need that. Well, we have a digital signature right now. I mean, we didn't have that before. It now appeared, and obviously the laws have to prescribe where can you use it and where you cannot use it. I do hope that all the documents will move from paper form to the internet, and maybe it will change something in the regulatory field. I think the same should be for the AI. It is here, it is growing, and the AI applications, not the AI itself, but the AI applications create new capabilities for people and might potentially create new problems. And the regulation should the regulators should look at the problems and say, okay, we need to address these problems, or we might have an opportunity. But it is not implemented because there is a lack of regulation. Maybe we should change that. And there is a barrier here that have to be removed. I'll just to change the wording of the last question. As for now, AI is under the control, and the regulation meets the needs of related to AI. Yes, absolutely. AI is it's mathematics, really. Why do you need to control mathematics? But obviously AI creates many new services and products. And these are something that have to be regulated. If you look at a product or a service, maybe you should put it in some framework, or maybe you should push the boundaries for this product to make it unlock its full potential. But we have to regulate. I don't really see the problems where the regulators have to step in, and if we see some major harm for people, some major problems, because some regulation was lacking, is something that I haven't seen before. The new essence, the new ideas and the products and services, this is something that we're going to talk about today as well. Thank you very much, Alexander, and thank you.
Мы продолжаем развенчивать мифы вокруг искусства.
We are continuing to debunk the myths in AI, and we're going to talk about AI and security, the security of data and security in general. And we're going to talk about many other things, and the executive director of Sber, Nadezhda Trusova, is going to guide us through this topic. Hello. Hi. Well, Nadezhda, I'm quite paranoid and anxious, but I think that the people want to get my data, my secrets, and they watch me. And when AI appeared, people started to talk about that as well. So AI records everything, it watches us. Yes, is that true? I wouldn't say watches us, it logs us. It's not surveillance, it's logging. And it's not only related to AI. All services that you use, like email, websites, applications, and taxi and food delivery, and all the other services are also using login. It is needed for us to be able to develop the services to ensure that we have the security of these services. And, well, AI is also participating in classical logging, but it helps to analyze the logs, to find anomalies. There's a field of data science called finding anomalies. When someone is trying to make some weird transactions with your cards, or when you make endless purchases, without logging, we cannot monitor that. So AI is not surveilling you, but it's protecting you and helps us to detect these actions. But it's a classical logging technology. It has been here not for a year, not for a decade. And AI helps to process these volumes, these arrays of data quicker to detect these anomalies, this kind of an extreme case that machine sees. Yes, this is one of the applications, helping people to look at these logs. This is a separate data science field, and there's also Gen AI that creates the content and the information by itself and stores this information. This is another relevant issue, because people, when they're talking about AI, they think about Gen AI, like ChatGPT, GigaChat from Sber, and other generative networks, neural networks that have emerged in multiple numbers. And the situation is different with them. It's more difficult. You ask a question, you upload the files and other documents, and then it is sent somewhere, and the generative network prepares the answer for you. Here, obviously, there are some security risks, but it's not that AI is surveilling you. It's the organizations that have to better prescribe the policies of saving and processing, storing and processing data. The data should be divided by critical data, whether they can be outsourced, and for the non-critical data, local models should be used.
Well, they could just help us answer some questions as part of the organization. So responsibility does not lie with AI, but it's with the systems architects and with the society. We need to analyze which data we can publish in the network and which we can't. It's common knowledge, like the OpenAI, the creator of ChatGPT, the pioneer in generative AI, they are saying that your data can be used to teach the models. So of course they have a commercial part for the organization. And Gemini, for example, of Google, it also has this opportunity of closed use without any training for the models. But if the data is critical, you should use local models. And it's all the architecture of digital systems, digital platforms, which can is something to think about. And the risks should be taken into consideration. And now it helps to answer questions. It helps perform routine tasks in a more high-quality way, more efficient than people in text generation, for example, in analytics. But the data is going to be used. The way it's used, it's more about people's decision. So the models that you named, they are controlled by people, by the architects. Just make it easier for us. Overall, total AGI is not something that we have achieved. It maybe will not come to that with the current technology in any time soon. So you should come down if you have good policies for transfer of data, and you have separate practices, separate areas, the internal area for information and the outer circuit. Okay, then we will remind people that the personal information, personal data, you should be very careful about that, not throw it around. It's not very clear whether there will be a strong AI. The strong AI, more routine functions are more and more given to the AI. What if we give away more of these functions, and at a certain point of time, what if something happens to this AI? What if it breaks down? As any software, as any technology, of course, AI can break. There were examples. For example, this year, there was a big breakdown of ChatGPT. As we well know, many companies, services are using GPT, and for a number of hours, about 8 to 10 hours, they were paralyzed because the client services, the logistics services, process routinization, it was all done with ChatGPT, and so you should not rely too much on AI. Maybe it's not a very smart thing to do. As any technological solution, it can break. It's normal. It's okay in IT that sometimes software malfunctions. It's not just about AI. For example, the CrowdStrike breakdown is well known in 2024, where people could not buy tickets. It was very hard for the European airports at that time. So what do we do with these things? First, we must not eliminate the person completely. There should be a human in the loop to check what the AI is doing. So the person should not just stay away. There should be some kind of control or supervision. In addition to that, when systems are designed and that include generative AI or some other AI technology, we need to have some kind of reserve. So there should be the mode where a system could work without AI, or where alternative models could be used. For example, an alternative API. Then the algorithms, of course, they should be made more transparent for the people to see the logs, so that they could track what went wrong. And then we need to test these systems for reliability. It's called stress testing. So when we design the systems that use AI, we need them to be reliable and to be prone to stress. And it should be done actually in the first stages of development, even at the concept stage, before going too much into detail. So we don't need to bring it to the situation where people would lose their competence. A very good example for that is when the GPS stopped working. Many people found it very hard to navigate without the GPS. And the same could happen with other skills like analytics, text processing, where AI is used very actively. With coding, so people, I think, should still keep it. For the case of AI malfunctioning, not relying on the AI 100% completely. Testing, logging, and maintaining human capabilities. This was, golden words. I would like to ask you almost a personal question. You are saying that there's the security guarantees of AI for now are that at the end of the chain is a human who changes, controls, corrects. So we will talk about the labor market, about future professions. So there should be a supervisor or whatever, which word you would choose, person who tracks that the AI is working right, that it's working in a good way, in a reliable way, in a just way. I don't think there will not be any AI supervisor, but there's a prompt engineering. It's not about tracking it. It's about controlling it correctly. But I think the requirements for the professions will change. If previously the programmer could know systems design, some programming and coding patterns, coding languages, working with databases, right now they must also be able to work with generative networks and analyze the solutions very fast and check them very fast. So I think the AI supervisor is not something that could appear to my mind, but a new skill sets for existing professions will appear. If you seek headhunter right now or classifieds, you would see that there are new skills to be required, such as vibe coding, to understand what they code, and maybe have some also basics of risk management. Thank you for alleviating our fears. A lot of myths have been busted. Now we should talk about the AI and the personal things, what happens here. We will talk with head of the education industry of Sber, Artem Soloveychik. Hello, Artem. We're used to the fact that number of professional tasks are done by AI by the way of prompts, submodels. But some people are already starting to have an emotional connection with the AI, with the machine. Sometimes people even fall in love with the machine. Is it right or wrong? But we need someone to talk to, and the more the more direct this conversation is, the better. It's like listening to our inner voice. That is the thing that's happening. So someone starts to live with that, and someone just looks at that, smiles, and goes further on. The question is, why are they hooked? I must say that even without AI, people who have their inner meaning, who understand where they're going, they can try various things and not become addicted. And people who have less meaning in their life, they don't understand what they're doing, they can be addicted to anything. And to this extent, AI is giving us a very direct answer about our lives. I can treat that in some way. I can give an example. A long time ago, in 1983, I made an experiment. I gave computer feedback without humans, just a small paragraph of text. algorithmical type, there was a line for that, a whole line of people. People were fascinated with the fact that someone could give feedback without a psychologist, without a specialist, without a friend. Now we are, we still trust the professionals, but we remain in our own worlds. And if we can get an answer without going to a person, get an answer about their lives, that's important. It's like a Confessions 2.0, right? Almost. If I have my inner understanding of myself, maybe I could be critical about something that I hear, or I could listen or not listen to that. It's like an astrologer's forecast. It's evident that it's not like that. It's not written for everyone. It's just an external construct for my inner feelings that I cannot deal with. And also, a simple thing. Very often, me or you, maybe not, maybe you, cannot discern a music composition or text made by AI from the one made by a human. And then we have fears that maybe human experience is not unique, capabilities are not unique, so writers and artists will be replaced by AI. So is the creativity unique to humans or not? Or should we be prepared for a symbiosis of sorts? It doesn't matter who says that. It's important who says it. If AI says it very nicely and it's interesting for me, then it's good. So, there are not many books and texts which I'm touched by. So we're coming to the situation where we read a lot, but the text is very dense or paradoxical, and then the AI cannot do this. But when it allows me to find a good word, I determine whether it's a good word or not. Give me options.
Которая прям моя. Это же моя формулировка с помощью искусственного интеллекта. Но вопрос, да, но если я не знаю, что сказать, он мне что-то сказал, я это пересказываю, мы на самом деле в большом количестве, наши люди живут не авторскими текстами, не своими мыслями, не своими. И в этом смысле какая разница? Кто написал, да, сказал мне это Гоголь, я пытаюсь это повторить, да, про тройку, которая несется там, и не знаю, к селу или городу я это сказал, да, или я сказал искусственный интеллект. Если я, читая книгу, рождается моя мысль, читая текст моя мысль, читая текст искусственного интеллекта моя мысль, если я его структурирование беру и переменяю, потому что я вот так чувствую, то есть, в принципе, у меня появился инструмент, который мне позволяет чуть меньше концентрироваться, ища вот это самое заветное слово. И в этом смысле, может быть, дает мне больше пространства его и найти. Я часто с искусственным интеллектом нахожу слово «сам», но он меня пушит, предлагая разные варианты.
Он не лишает, то есть, пространства, он расширяет его.
Еще раз, это как все на свете. Да, сильного делать сильнее, слабого делать слабее. Ничего с этим не сделаешь. Вот. Но, конечно, это уже такая игрушка, инструмент, которая содержательно подбирается к нам, в том смысле, что с ним приходится спорить аргументированно, не принимать что-нибудь. Я помню, недавно мы сидели таким узким кругом, и мы редактировали текст, очень, очень важный. И сидела девочка 14-летняя, которая оказалась в доме, и она сделала вот искусственный интеллект, нам все получилось, даже это. И она говорит, сильно ванильно. Было так точно. Это было так правильно. Только человек это может.
Давай вот убавим ванильности в нашем разговоре, прям однозначно. Ты много работаешь с детьми, с родителями, не знаю, с кем больше, и прекрасно знаешь, что одна из главных претензий родительского сообщества, я так высокопарно, может быть, немножко выражусь, к искусственному интеллекту, то, что вот дети многие, по крайней мере, у них великое искушение все сгрузить туда. Мы решаем задачи, я имею в виду про детей, с помощью искусственного интеллекта, пишем сочинения, рефераты с помощью их, курсовые, да и кандидатские тоже с помощью бездушной машины. Соответственно, атрофируется интеллект, говорят родители. Это так или это не так? И общий вопрос тогда, вот каким он будет ребенок будущего, у которого даже не в кармане, а вот в прямом доступе по щелчку пальцев все знания мира и огромное количество промптов.
Когда человек выполняет не свою задачу, внутренне не принятую задачу, он любое средство использует для того, чтобы ее решить. То есть если раньше мне, чтобы, все-таки, так как у меня не было искусственного интеллекта, мне все-таки чего-то надо было решить, да, для того, чтобы контрольную сдать, или там, не знаю, домашнее задание. Сейчас, если я могу это обойти, и да, проблема не в том, что искусственный интеллект за меня это делает. Дело в том, что дети находятся в таком положении, что если что-то такое сделали, не знаю что, мне поставили 5, я реально чувствую, мне поставили 5, хотя я даже не понял, что я делал. И так в этом образовании таких ситуаций очень много. А в этом смысле искусственный интеллект просто проявляет ту ситуацию, которая веками уже была с детьми. И понятно, что когда мы их заставляем, принуждаем, они как-то пробираются через это, сильные становятся опять сильнее, слабые выпадают и так далее. У всех появляется дополнительное такое свойство, что опыт принуждения, либо меня самого, либо других, что мне очень не нравится, и с чем я хотел бы как-то побороться. И в этом смысле нам нужно перепридумать образование, школы, воспитание, чтобы действительно ту задачу, которую человек выполняет, была бы его. И если это моя задача, я и тебя, Кирилл, спрошу, и маму спрошу, и учителя спрошу, и искусственный интеллект спрошу. Если это не моя задача, я прошу иногда ребенка, слушай, тебе помочь? Он говорит, не-не, я сам. Часто это признак того, что он просто хочет сделать, отделаться, а сейчас будет такая огромная история про то, что это очень важно.
So it's an important thing that you're doing that. They just want to do this task and that's it, whatever that means. So it could be a challenge for the modern education. And so it's inevitable for us to find ways for internal motivation that it's not the external task and external assessment. It should be an internal task and internal assessment. It's very important. And I think AI today just makes us do that. Yes, the grown-ups to think about an internal task of the child. Then it will be for the better. Maybe I can expand on that and use your own words against you, that the strongest are becoming stronger and the weak are becoming weaker. We want the cohort of the strong to grow. What do we need to do in this dawn of AI to become smarter, more individual, more creative, and more, capable to work? Because without that, it's hard. I understand you said that. That's, I'm not worrying about the strong ones, but I'm worrying about the weak, or those who are weak right now, and they could lose this moment. Don't push the guys, and you must give them the opportunity. So, for example, previously they could make 1, 2, 3 versions of the manuals for the average and for the strong, and they were methodologists writing these manuals. Right now, we could make as many manuals as many there are children. And tailor them to their needs, what they want, what they're interested in. So we as grown-ups believe that things in the world are connected, and you could go along the chain, like Leonardo said. What you begin with on your portrait, from a nose or an ear, and he says that I'm seeing the person as a whole, and it's the same with the world. And you could learn something about this world, whether it's about the interests, whether it's about an important thing for you. So, good teachers are good because they're not about talking just about physics or just about literature. They're teaching us about the world as a whole. So if I'm learning something about the world, it could be done with AI as well. And it happens to every child. It's a well-known phenomenon in education. And the question is about how to start doing this, whether you have the feelings for that. And the AI allows us to, theoretically at least, as I see it, allows us to build this kind of education where the child learns something new about the world, studies the world, and gets the answer very fast.
Because when I go quick through the forest, through the thickets, I want to see what's behind the thickets, what behind the trees, because, it's like a textbook that connects all the dots in the world, but you have to go through your own journey. Maybe you go through it once, you haven't remembered anything, and then it's like 3 years. After 3 years of education in school, not 11 years, you will have your own picture of the world, and then AI will help you when you have that background, that picture of the world, when you have that critical thinking, that foundation that would help you to say, okay, I did a great thing, or I did something weird. And because I see that people who write, they have this feeling of the language, and they use AI, they actually play with AI, and they give some text, and they add some new things and add some new artificial nature to it. Maybe they give some sarcasm or irony or postmodernism or whatever. And this is also a discovery. So whatever there is in the world acts, and AI can give you a quick response, a quick answer, because we are not accustomed to quick answers. When you want to translate something, you have to go through a dictionary. I once wanted to read Kant in original and Kant, and I remember when I was going through a dictionary to find some words. Now it's different, and you would say, okay, you were growing back then, but now not. Okay, this is your position, but I want to learn what Kant said. Immanuel Kant said, as quickly as possible. And he said that humans want to achieve the goals, and our inner child wants to achieve these goals, these inner goals. I really like the fact that AI is not only for the children, but for the adults and for their education. Thank you very much for your intake. Thank you.